Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood advisor here, Alexander Quinn, and today I'm going to be telling you the top money habits for increasing your income. Um, so, the top money habits that lead to effective income growth in general for the general populace would be number one, I'd say pay yourself first. So, this is a valuable tip, and it's actually one of the most famous tips from one of the most famous books called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And basically, pay yourself first is the way that I would describe it is it's kind of like if you have $1,000 that you bring in this month and you are deciding whether to put that towards bills, rent, savings, etc. If you have a savings plan and you're deciding you're going to save a couple $100 a month, then you should put a couple hundred in there first, even if you can't afford the other things next. This sounds strange to many, but this makes sense. And I actually tell my tenants to do this, even though I shouldn't, because then they might not pay me. But the reason why it's the best advice is because if you pay, let's say you pay some of your rent, but not all of it. Well, if you get kicked out and you don't have any money and nowhere to go, then your life is going to be in kind of a tough situation. But if you save that money instead, then if you get kicked out, you do have money for a hotel room to get by until your next paycheck. You do have money you can put towards a down payment on the next place that you need, especially if you have kids or if you're ill or if you don't have a car to live in, etc. So paying yourself first is pretty important. Also, if you're growing a business, then usually that business is going to give you more returns than what you would suffer from missing some payments on some other things. I'm not encouraging people to be irresponsible and just not pay their bills, but if you have to choose to cut something, then you should probably choose survivability first. You probably should make it so that you have more income later to go and pay those back with interest or late fees or whatever instead. But generally, paying yourself first is smarter for survivability. And when you don't need to worry about survival as much and you're looking more at investing, it's smarter for that scenario too. So it's tough to find a scenario in which you shouldn't pay yourself first. That is one effective habit of successful people. Another tip would be to automate income. So if you do have money sitting around in savings, it's losing value due to inflation, and so you want it to be doing something. You want to make it automated in most cases, unless you have a particular investment plan that you want to go into. We have covered that in some of our other videos, so if you want more information on that, go ahead and watch those. But for the moment, if you are not investing in particular at the moment and you don't already know where that money is supposed to go besides your savings, then you want to try to have automated investments, money that brings back money. This can be in the form of a S&P 500 stock, which is just a general stock portfolio. That also is in a previous video, the one right before this actually. But S&P 500, so it's just a general stock of all the top traded companies that are unlikely to go out of out of style, like Google, Apple, Amazon, etc. So it's pretty safe. It's making some money for you, 7 to 10% per year, instead of just sitting around losing about that value. So instead of losing like $80 every so often, you gain $80 every so often. If you have more than $1,000, it makes a much bigger difference. If you're in between investing things like you're purchasing properties, then in between purchasing properties, it's nice to have your funds in there, and you usually can leverage stocks like an S&P 500 portfolio. You can usually leverage that and use that as collateral to take out a loan of that amount. So then the investment's making money while you still get to kind of spend the money um, temporarily, and then once you pay that off, your funds are still sitting in that stock fund, and you get to just take a short-term loan to do whatever it is you need to do real quick. Um, so yeah, there's other ways you can do it too. If you want to be more aggressive, then you can also look at. I don't recommend Bitcoin mining, but if you feel that's the path you want to go down, some people have claimed to have some success with it. I'd like to see what the ending looked like, but I personally find it too risky, and I don't think that someone's current result is not a reflection of their ultimate result with it. But other investments would be trying to start up a business. I recommend starting a businesses that use little to no money at first. See if you can do it. Make sure that you see what you're good at, what you're bad at, and see how your predictions pan out. See what here's what I think this is going to make. Let me try it out, see how well it performs, see if you make more or less, see if you make that money more or less often, and just kind of go with the flow, see what's going on. If you're accurate at what you're trying to do, and if you are, then it's probably worth investing in. If you're not accurate or you don't know, I recommend you get accurate before you start putting money down on yourself. Just make sure that you really can produce before you go all in on something. This also helps motivate people to get started as well, because there's nothing to lose if you just go and give it a try real quick and see what's going on. And most people fail their first time anyway. Even successful people usually fail the first few times they try. So I recommend you go out there and get the mistakes out of the way so you can start succeeding, so that you know when to put the money in yourself to make yourself move forward if you're interested in starting a business. So that is an option. I'd say that a good third option for um, for efficient investing advice. So we already covered paying yourself first and automating income. The next thing would be to sell value, not time. So this concept sounds simple at first, and it's not terribly complicated, but sometimes you have to get creative to figure out how this works. So if someone is, let's say they're stranded somewhere, my initial thought used to be to help pay for like a taxi to get them out of there, whatever the case may be. But if you, I mean, obviously, if you go and pick them up, then that saves you some money. But I suppose a better example would be if you know something about cars, or if you go out and you try to help fix it, or if you can lend them some jumper cables, if that's kind of the case of what's going on, or if you're not home, if you're out and about with friends at the club and you left your car at home, but there's a way to get into it, or something like that. There are some scenarios in my life where people asked me for money and I wanted to help them out and I had the money, but what I also knew that they tend to frequently go back into debt, and so I decided that instead of enabling that behavior, I decided that I was going to hold on to it and invest it how I had planned, because I knew I would get more money back. Sure enough, a year later, instead of giving them the 5,000 they asked for, I had about 12 grand. So I think they asked for 2 grand, and then I had 5 grand. I turned it into 11, and then when I had that money, then I went and loaned them the 5 grand. Actually, I didn't loan it to them. I guess I gave it to them, but it was supposed to be a loan. But I paid 5 grand for a vehicle that they had that was going to cost them more money until they moved it, and so it was costing them hundreds of dollars every so often to be where it was. So I saved them money and actually lessened their burden by having one less thing they had to worry about. Wouldn't lead to legal implications. They saved money over time, etc. So I actually helped them out in that way, and I was still giving them a dollar amount. And in the end, I walked away with 6 grand from the profit that I made on keeping the money myself in the first place, versus if I just gave it to them and it ended up going nowhere. So I had more money in the end. I was able to help them out by a larger dollar amount. I was able to help them out in a better way. I was able to take that off of their hands, which provide a service of some kind. But sometimes you do have to get creative with it. Try to find ways that you can help people with services instead of simply with money. One more tip, I suppose, is I babysat some kids once to help someone out, and instead of bailing them out like I normally would. It wasn't someone I knew well enough to do that, and I ended up just watching their kids, and that ended up helping them be able to keep their job and keep moving forward, and it helped out their life a lot more than if I simply gave them money to try to find a babysitter, especially because that was during the pandemic times when it was pretty hard to find that anyway. Anyway, I hope this helps someone out there. Thank you so much, and have a great day.